o'clock. I will call the, now it's 7 o'clock. I'll call the Plan Commission meeting to order. Do we have roll call, please?
Grant.
Here.
Denkert.
Here.
Hutton. Matthias.
Here.
Foskelchen.
Here.
Split.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the May 15th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 15th meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from May 15th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. All right, so we have the first of our two public hearings tonight for conditional use. This first one will be for Barbara Anthon on Oshkosh Street. That's currently an empty parcel, looking to have conditional use for a single family home. So time is now 7:01. I will open the public hearing. Is Barbara here?
Yes,
Would you like to just give an overview of your plans?
well, I bought it in '87 and I live right next to it, and I used to garden a lot and no more. So I'd like to just get rid of it.
Okay. So you want to rezone or conditional use so that someone can build on something. All right. So for the public comment section, first we have Anthony Dulger. We have a lot of public comment tonight, so hopefully
Yeah, I'll
keep
make it short.
brief. We're going to keep everyone to 2 minutes tonight.
He knows me. I'm here, I'm helping Barb sell a lot.
Okay.
And we do have an accepted offer on it. I was unaware that it was Zone B2 until the purchasers, Steffens, went and talked to Sue, and she informed us of that. So they're not able to build a building for a home on that lot. So we're just here asking permission to do so. It's only a quarter acre. I know it's Zone B2, but to put a business in there and get parking, I think would be very, I don't know if a building could ever go in there. It's just too small. To allow residential would be, I think would be a good idea, so Barb doesn't have to deal with that lot anymore.
Right.
And I'm here to answer any questions if you have.
We may come back.
Okay.
All right. Next we have Aaron and Kelly Helmer.
Yeah, I'll speak. It's actually, I'm here for the other one, but my parents are the ones that are wanting to build on that piece of land. And they're reputable people. So I thought, heck, I'll be here for both. It's a really nice little home.
Is that all you have then?
Yes, that's
All
all I
right.
have.
All right, so we have no one else signed up for this public hearing. If anyone else would like to speak? No? All right, so I will close the public hearing at 7:04, which will be here in a few seconds. And then we can open discussion. So does anyone have any discussion or questions?
Is there a reason why it's zoned B2 and not zoned residential?
If you look at the general area over here, just to the south and west, there are apartments.
Okay.
I think, this fronting Oshkosh and having across the street, a dentist, a church, I know there's a child care center as well in that area. It was all zoned B2 at one point. Obviously, this corner, there are only single-family residential homes on this corner, and I think this is, as she mentioned, been a vacant lot. So, and in a B2 district, a single-family home requires a conditional use.
And this is on the south side of Oshkosh Street,
Correct. The Northwest Trail is right back here.
We have a single-family house on both sides,
Here, here,
which
here.
I assume were there before it was zoned to be B2,
I
likely.
probably,
We're there for a while.
what came first?
Yeah.
The house or the zoning?
All right. Any issue, oh, go ahead.
I think it's a perfect fit for that, like you said, with the houses on each side and one in the backyard. I think it would be a good fit. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Any issues from legal or building inspection?
No issues.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving conditional use for Barbara Anthon's property on Oshkosh Street, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have a public hearing for a rezone application and conditional use permit for Ripon Event Barn LLC at 835 Liberty Street.
Do you want to do number 3 first?
Just move
Quick,
Site plan?
yeah. Just
Is that all right with
Yes, that's
ordinance?
fine.
We'll come back to number 2. We're going to skip to number 3. So for this site plan for signature wafer at 850 Stanton Street. Bill, is that by chance why you're here?
It is. As a matter of fact. This is the next in the line of signature waiver additions. This one is a new warehouse addition to one of the previous additions we did. After evaluation, they found that they needed more space.
So this was not on the previous plans?
No,
Okay.
this is a new 2,300 square feet, I think, warehouse addition, rather small. The order is pretty straightforward. It is taking the place of what was already impervious area. It created a little bit of a drainage challenge, which is why there's some storm sewer added through the parking lot. There is no additional runoff area.
Okay. And it is attached to the building or is it?
Yes.
Attached?
Yeah, it is.
right here?
Yep, that's the one.
Okay. This area right here.
And the green line is the drainage?
Correct. That is the storm sewer.
All right. Anyone have any questions? Or want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the site plan.
I'll second.
Any issues from the building inspector? Nope. Okay. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the site plan for signature waiver at 850 Stanton Street, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in, Bill. And I will get a hold of you at some point.
Okay.
I saw your email, I just haven't had a chance to get to it.
Let's move
Have a good night.
it. You too.
All right, coming back to topic number 2, public hearing to rezone application and conditional use permit for Ripon Event Barn LLC at 835 Liberty Street. Putting a B3 neighborhood business district overlay on an R1 residential district. So the time is 7:09. I will open that public hearing. Is anyone here from Ripon Event Barn?
Yes, I am.
And your name?
Wayne Cheney,
Wayne Cheney. Oh. Nice to meet you.
same thing.
All right, would you like to give an overview of the project?
That would probably be a good idea.
Yes.
First of all, my name is Wayne Cheney, and after living most of my life in Oshkosh, raising my family there, I moved to Green Lake about 25 years ago and have been a resident there since that time. And as a result of the way the commercial world works, I spent most of my shopping in Ripon at the food store, the drugstore, the hardware store, and that sort of thing. In addition, a connection to Ripon, for at least 5 years, I've attended the Wilmore Athletic Facility at Ripon College. My son-in-law was a basketball player, starting basketball player on the Ripon College team about 40 years ago. And two of my closest friends graduated from Ripon College. The property that we're referring to tonight is a little over a 5-acre parcel. It's bounded on the north by Liberty Street, on the south by State Street, on the west by Silver Creek, and on the east by 2 residences. In 1901, Joseph Schultz started a honey producing business, and that operated until approximately 1995, when I believe it was closed because of the competition, number one, and number two is nobody in his family wanted to continue the business. So the buildings have been, other than the house, there's a house on it, a 2-story salt box home, and 3 barns. The barns were all operated in the honey business. The barns all have the classic wood barn look, and when I purchased the land, I purchased the property in January of this year, and at that time, driving back and forth from my home to Wilmore, I went by it 100 times, and I always thought it was an interesting property, and a sign went up saying that it was for sale by owner. So I talked to the owner and decided that it was a property worth saving for the community. During my active business career, I was a real estate developer and renovated at least a half a dozen major older facilities that I just felt should be saved, and that's what I felt about the barns and the home. The plan, I studied the market after. I didn't know when I bought it what I was going to use it for. I just thought it should be saved. And I studied the market and looked at everything, and the only thing that seemed to make, I shouldn't put it that way. I thought that the highest and best use for the property was an event center / wedding venue place. And I went around and researched at least a dozen facilities like that, and I thought that it fit very well for that use. The renovation of the house has been started and will be completed probably by sometime in October. I have done no renovations at this point for the barns, and would like to renovate them for the purpose that I stated. If the Plan Commission decides not to either rezone or provide some way that that business can operate, I would just make some minor renovations to the buildings so that they at least stand up, and probably hold on to it for a few years until somebody could come along with a better idea that would be acceptable to the city. And I'm here to, anytime there's change, there's concern and questions, and I'm here to answer whatever questions you have.
Okay. So I will go through the list of people who'd like to speak, and won't have you directly respond to them, but when they're all done, we can bring the questions back.
Sure.
All right. So a reminder, please keep your discussion to 2-minute limit. First, we have Andrew Dorsch. If you could state your name and address for the record before you speak.
My name's Andrew Dorsch. I live at 819 Liberty Street, the property right next to 835. So I have a letter which I've addressed to the council. If anyone needs copies of it, I can provide that at this time. But it details out the data as to why I would urge the council to reject the proposal made this evening. Does anyone need this?
It was sent out in an email.
Did anyone read it?
Okay.
Okay, I'll just leave a couple here. You can pass them on this evening. So, first and foremost, I just, again, like to urge the council to vote no on this. And the reason being is that B3 overlays are typically considered for, or at least what's outlined in the zoning code for chiropractors, insurance agencies, legal services, essentially quiet businesses that wouldn't disturb or be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of the community, which I believe that having a wedding event would contribute to degrading all of those for our community. The increase of traffic, possibly drunken traffic in the neighborhood, as well as the excessive noise, would essentially, how do I say this, disturb the whole neighborhood, and would also lead to potential crime in the area with people consuming alcohol, vandalism, those types of things. So again, just to look at it, include some maps, because I'm a map guy, right? Within a quarter-mile radius of the planned site, there are 220-some parcels, a majority of which are R1. So those are single-family homes. And that's going to essentially be the affected area by loud music, the driving. There's also a city park that's located in that area. We also have wreak havoc on pedestrian and bicycle traffic as well. I guess my time is up. But if anyone else has questions, I have papers.
Thank you. Next, I apologize for mispronouncing the name, Amanda, was it Prisbill?
Really close, yeah.
You're close, yeah.
Amanda Percival, I live at 800 Church Street. So our driveway, the street goes directly into this property, and we have 2 young children, and part of the reason we moved into this area was because we were able to get 3.6 acres because we wanted that country feel in the city. We purposely avoided the downtown because we wanted to avoid the noise. We wanted our children to have a safe neighborhood, which we really felt it was. And I just think all of the increased traffic on the nights and the weekends would be detrimental to all of the children in the area. I worry about safety. I'm also questioning what rezoning would do to our property taxes, because that is always a concern. And the noise, I mean, it's pretty peaceful. Occasionally you can hear the Friday night concerts if the wind's in the right direction, but it's fairly peaceful. We have lots of deer, about a herd of 13 that hang around in the area, and that's part of why we moved there, was for the tranquility and the environment that we got. And I think that the noise of this and the excess traffic would disturb that significantly.
Thank you. Next, Mark Daniels.
I live at 116 Union Street. Basically, I can throw a softball and hit the yard that he's on. He's in my backyard. Same reason what he had said, Andy had said, she had said, I don't agree with it. I have one question. What is the idea with the house. Is it gonna be like a bed and breakfast or things like that? I have no problem with that. I don't think it'll be a problem. But I do see the traffic being a major problem. I've lived on that street within a block of Union and Liberty Street almost my entire life. I'm 62 years old, probably longer than anybody else has here. So I've seen the traffic increase over and over and gotten worse. I see that being a problem, especially on that State Street. We do have kids around there, and it does get bad. I used to be able to just back my boat in my driveway real easy. Now it's not so easy. I have people come over to my house and they take forever to get out of my driveway. That's how bad the traffic has gotten on Union Street. So I see this increasing that way. But I don't see this being a good fit for that. But like I said, if he plans on doing a bed and breakfast, which is I've heard for the house, I have no problem with that. I think it would be kind of a good idea, you know, to save that house. And if you wanted to save the buildings around there, make them look better, kudos to you. But the rest of the idea, no. I just see there's too much traffic and I see it disturbing our neighborhood, which has been a very good neighborhood. We have very little problems there. So that's what I got to say.
Thank you. Howard, Steve?
You want to read that one first, Tim? This is from the neighbor across the road. He didn't want to come tonight, if that's okay. It's just,
We can submit it to the record.
You're just gonna publish it?
Yep.
Go ahead, Howard.
My name's Howard Stibb. I live in 820 State Street. We adjoin the property where the field is. It would be our southwest corner joins up with the southeast corner of the field. I'm not totally against, like Mark said, for the bed and breakfast, if that's what it's going to be for the house. I do have some issues with being a wedding and conference venue, if it's going to be like that. One issue I have is where the entrance is going to be for the so-called parking lot. I think that's in the wrong spot. I think that should go farther to the west, towards the creek. As cars are coming out of there at night, it's going to be a lot of stuff after dark. The best thing is to have it where the driveway would be directly across from the cemetery building, because that way you're not going to have headlights shining in the N2 houses down there all the time. That's going to be an issue. If that were my place, I don't want people shining their lights in my driveway all the time. Another issue that I have is where our property adjoins with a fence, you're going to have cars parked in there. We're going to have a lot of headlights shining towards our place. My recommendation, if that were to take place, if you guys are going to accept it, I would like to see a privacy fence put in. At least 8 feet high, go along the entire length of our property, because the headlights are going to shine in along the way and it's going to get annoying as time goes along. Another thing that I would feel uncomfortable about is what you guys are going to give for stipulation on what the hours are for when it can actually end. I feel that you should not go anywhere later than 10 o'clock. That's quiet time in my opinion. That's the way it always should be. And another thing is that I'm concerned about, anytime you get people drinking and going to weddings or any kind of venue like that, you're going to have people using the parking lot and the trees that we have in there as a public restroom. I guarantee it. There's not one guy that is in this room right now that has never been out any place where he's used a public restroom between cars, in trees, anything like that. And if anybody says they've never done that, then I totally believe that they're lying. So, but those are the concerns that I have, a fence and a location of where the driveway is going through the parking lot.
Thank you, Howard. Apologize, I can't read this first name, but Dawn Finley.
Oh, that would be me.
Okay.
Thank you. Dawn Finley, our address is 815 Liberty Street, so we are next door to the Dorsches, and we're 2 doors down from the proposal property of 835. I do question a little bit the timeline and the presumptuous nature of this entire project. I feel like if there was some social consciousness involved, that perhaps Mr. Cheney would have, collectively held a neighborhood meeting to get some of our input. But it seems like this was all done under the cover of darkness and hidden from us until we got this letter. What I question is also the presumption of that Ripon Event Barn LLC was registered as an entity in December of 2023, at the same time that the property was transferred. So this was the intention from the beginning of the property being bought. Mr. Cheney, contributed his, what he has done to contribute to the city of Ripon, but has not addressed anything about what it would contribute to our neighborhood, which it will contribute nothing but negativity and things that that would make our home values diminish, because who wants to buy a house next to a loud public venue? We bought our home in a modest, quiet, residential neighborhood and would like it to stay that way. Soresco is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, neighborhoods in our community. And it was founded on the fact that they wanted to live closely with each other, share things, stay out of politics and stay out of society in general. And I would say we're not communal by no means by the definition, but we are a very collective neighborhood. We know each other. We get along very well, and I just feel that this is an invasion into our quiet neighborhood. And as Andy and Mr. Stibb had pointed out, with this comes noise, garbage, the creek. I will question about what was done with the creek already, and if that was permitted. And I guess my time is up.
Thank you. Next is Kevin, was it Polston?
Yes. I'm Kevin Polston. I live at 121 West Street. We are directly up the hill from where they cleared out all those trees. So we have a view of just the barn now. I'd like to just second what everybody has said so far with all my notes. So my wife and I, we believe that the event center and catering will draw large groups of people to a quiet residential area where families and children reside, and if not children, grandchildren. Not only is there a concern with space, such as parking, but also issues of loud noises, disruptive noises, alcohol consumptions. Officer Stibb brought up public urination. I don't want that around my child. That accompany venue events such as weddings. So just kind of restating what people said, I truly believe that will be detrimental to our general welfare of our neighborhood and safety. That's what I'd like to contribute.
Thank you. Aaron and Kelly Helmer.
I'll start. Okay. I basically second most of what everybody has said. In addition to the public urination concern, the cemetery across the street, of course, is right there. I would hate to have that desecrated as well.
Yeah, I guess I was just wanted to find out like what kind of a plan there was. You mentioned like a parking lot and the driveway and all that. Is that something been submitted already, like as to how we would do it, or?
Yeah.
There has been a plan submitted.
Yeah, okay. But, I mean, I guess, yeah, noise, cars and extra people, the typical things everyone said. Even concerns.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. Barbara Anthem?
I think she said it wrong.
I think she said it the wrong one.
Mr. Mayor, do we have a picture you can show people what it's going to look like?
We can get to that.
I've seen it.
All right, then Joe, can't read the last name here.
Grinwald.
Grinwald?
Grinwald, yes.
Thank you.
I'm Joe Grimwald. I live with my wife on 829 State Street. We're fairly new residents. We love the neighborhood. I can understand all the concerns, and especially the privacy fence and the driveway would affect me. In the interest of other people's interest, I can see how that would make a nice spot for that. But my concern would be if this does not go forward, what does come in there? Because I'm thinking of like, boy, this would be a lot better than a bunch of rental units or something. I don't know. I don't know enough about how this stuff works. This is actually the first time I've ever been to one of these meetings. But that's my comment. I agree with a lot of what was said. I empathize with what a great property for that kind of business, but I don't think anybody really thinks it's a great location for it that lives in the area, including myself. I'm retired and I love it. I love the neighborhood. I love the deer, except they eat all the flowers, but it's a great neighborhood. That's it.
Thank you. All right, next, Donna Charlie Johnson.
Hello, I'm Donna Charlie Johnson. I live at 840 Liberty Street, which is directly across from the proposed event barn. When I first received the letter on Thursday, I was concerned and contacted Mr. Sontag right away to get a site plan. My primary concerns at that time were where all the individuals who are going to attend the weddings they're going to park, and how will the choice of parking affect the flow of the creek, because my house is downstream from the creek. And although we have not this spring received the severe rains, generally that creek, which goes about 3 feet normally, can go up to 70 feet in one big rain. The sewers from north of me emptying out under the bridge on my side. So I was concerned about flooding. The next day, after I learned that, well, when I saw the plan, I saw that there is parking planned as has been described by the group, but this plan is not to scale. So the devil's in the details here. You do have an ordinance in the city about how much parking spaces for each car and person on the site. This plan is not to scale, and it does not represent the available amount of parking space. And also has other issues as represented this, of course. The next day, they started taking down the entire riparian zone on Crystal Creek, which is the creek it is, not Silver Creek. And although that riparian zone is primarily reed canary grass and ash trees, they did not get a permit. I have been working with Francesca Sanchez with the DNR, whose jurisdiction this is, to do this. Cutting down trees, mowing grass is not illegal. However, grading and raking and, well, I don't know the seeding, what do you see it? That was filling in a wetland that is zoned as a wetland. Also, if you were to look at the site plan, you see that there is a bridge planned. The bridge also must get a DNR permit. I do not feel that this was done with transparency. And I also feel that it will significantly decrease the resilience of the creek to flooding, because all those trees and foliage cut down absorb water and transport it back into the air instead of sending it downstream to flood onto, eventually, the highway.
Thank you. Next is Chad Johnson.
I live at 840 Liberty also, and I guess I second what everybody is saying. I'm concerned about noise, parking, vandalism, and I bought a house in a quiet residential neighborhood, not somewhere where there'd be dozens of strangers across the street every night. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And last is Murray Norton.
I left my hearing aid at home, so I haven't heard. But I've talked with several of the neighbors, and I agree with everything that's been said here, because I bought my house about 30 years ago in July, and that's one of the reasons I bought it. It's very peaceful down there. It's quiet. We don't need all the added traffic and all the other concerns that come with a property like this. And as far as I can see, event barns are all over the place. Berlin, Princeton, Marquezine, Oshkosh. they got them all over the place, so it's, I don't think they're that unique anymore. So, I agree, I have no problem with a bed and breakfast, but not the rest of it, you know.
Thank you.
Did Mrs. Basil write something? She get it in? She told me she did.
There's other people.
I'm not, I would like to speak if there is time.
Yeah,
I'm not Miss Basil. I don't know if
You want to come sign the sheet
Sorry.
here? All right, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not a great public speaker. I took notes, but just to kind of reiterate what a lot of people's concerns already are. I know taxes were brought up. I come from a family who deals with just looking at zoning, realty, all of that, and property taxes typically go up with rezoning for the surrounding area. Property resale value typically goes down. Yes, value of the house goes up, but resale value for anyone who, for whatever reason, would need to move, that would typically go down, so that would be hurting you. You'd be paying more taxes, but yet you're unable to turn your house if you need to. The other thing is, yes, noise concerns. Pollution due to littering is a big concern of ours. Oh, sorry, I'm at 831 Church Street. I'm directly across from the front of their house. My property is an L. My house is on the back of the church, but the back of my property is completely neighboring, right across. So the other part of that would be heavier traffic. So conditions of roads. I know a lot of the water and sewage in that area is very old, so a heavier traffic is going to not only damage the road, but could potentially damage those lines. The heavier traffic, along with the noise, is also a concern for kids. I know kids have been mentioned. We have 2 young kids, one on the way. A lot of people have grandkids. There's a lot of children in this area that feel very safe. We're right next to a park. We moved in the area about 3-4 years ago because it was a quiet residential area next to a park, which made us feel safe. We don't have to worry about anyone living in the area that could be potentially a, hate to go there, but child predator, a sexual offender. Our kids feel safe. Our neighbors' kids ride their bike around the block. There's a lot of kids that walk there to the park, that is. And with heavier traffic, it's gonna just put a lot of people at unease with their kids free playing, because we don't know these strangers coming into this potential barn. I mean, the people renting might be checked, but not all of their guests.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to speak? All right.
Mr. Mayor, I'll just add that the commission was forwarded approximately 10 emailed letters that I received. So that included the one from that you had mentioned. So those were all provided to the commission earlier today.
Thank you. All right, at this time I will close the public hearing portion at 7:38. And Wayne, would you like to just address any of those topics generally before we direct questions directly to you?
I'll wait for the direct questions.
I'm going to recuse myself from all discussion and voting tonight on this matter.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll answer your questions as they come up.
Very good. So I wrote down a few generalized questions. Do you have a sense of what your hours of operations would tend to be?
The ideal would be for weddings, there probably, our research shows that there would probably not be more than a dozen or 2 dozen events, whether they're weddings or other events a year. So there's a limitation as to what goes on, and that's normally those are all one-night events. It's not like we have 365 days going. Your question again was?
Your anticipated hours of operation.
Oh, the hours of operation. Wedding, normally you have food and all of the ceremonial type things going on between about 8 and 10. And then you hire a band or something like that, and the dancing goes on normally it's a 2-hour event, normally somewhere between 10 and 12. The other events that would be business-related, educators getting together, medical people, generally it's professional type meetings, so those would generally be over by 10 or 11 o'clock.
Okay. What are your plans for landscaping in the area to address like privacy from neighbors?
Well, I'm a master gardener, and a good example of what I do is at the Greenway House Bed and Breakfast in Green Lake. I intended that this, because of the size of the property and to make the whole thing very attractive, I considered extensive landscaping so that it would almost be referred to as a botanical garden facility.
What about like privacy fencing or hedges or?
Well, I don't know what that means and where it is and what it is, and there is one privacy fence already on the house that's on the southeast corner of the property. It's solid vegetation, and the other neighbor has that's a little bit open, I guess. That could have some kind of something.
Okay. And the capacity of the venue?
The capacity would be somewhere between 80 and 90 in the building, in the large building. And during the summer, the building to the south was intended to be a pavilion type that would be open, so you could have another 50 people probably in there. So it could be as many as 150. But that would not be likely. It'd be more likely to be the 80 than 80.
And parking lot that's designed, make cars designed to fit?
Whatever's legally required. We have 5.5, we have over 5 acres, so.
Okay, so your parking lot could expand if needed?
Could expand to any size.
And to that point, with Howard's question of is it possible to move the entrance to the driveway across?
I never discussed with anybody where the driveways should go. I thought the city would determine that. The ideal place would be across from the city garage or the 2-car garage that's right next to it. The housing doesn't begin until the east of that, so the west half of the property is fronted across from 2 garages. That would be ideal for a driveway.
Okay, so you're open to moving?
Sure, move it.
Right, and let's see, that addresses most of the questions that I wrote down. Questions from the rest of the group?
I'll go. You have on your site plan marked turfstone pavers, but I believe within the city, we would have to do a concrete or recycled asphalt for that area. And, is that correct? Yeah.
It has to be a hard surface.
It has to be the impermeable surface.
A hard surface is not an impermeable surface. So.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, so it has to be a hard surface. Okay. I guess my question gets to, if ordinance requires you to change this parking area to a harder surface, then there's a possibility or likelihood of doing retaining pond or some sort of water management.
I intended to make this a botanical garden facility, and I'm not going to have a large parking lot there.
Okay.
A blacktop. I just won't do that.
Okay. So you would keep a smaller parking lot and not have to go to
not necessarily smaller. It would be.
But within
there's a system to keep grass with appropriate material that, or fencing kind of that goes in the grass that
It's like a
provides
honeycomb
parking lot. It
structure
would
that
still,
provides-
it would still look like a lawn, but it would service just as well as
Supports the
a blacktop or anything else.
And Sue, those, that type of driveway is acceptable to code, or
Basically,
parking
as
lot?
long as it's a hard surface.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't necessarily have any questions, but I guess my thoughts kind of go to, I live about a block away from the Village Green, and I have 2 small kids. And I hear the concerns about everybody with kids and being in the area. And I mean, I have no idea who's coming to the concerts on Friday nights that are literally, I can stand in my backyard and hear them. The traffic on the streets, everything. I have never once felt unsafe about my kids being out and about and going to the concerts and crossing the street. So I guess that's kind of like some of my just thoughts in response to some of this, just someone who's considering this, who gets a vote on whether to do this or not. I do understand the concern as a parent, but I also understand and think too, like if this is something that could be good for the community, you know, I understand some of the concerns, but you know, we have to think about it from a community perspective too, not necessarily from a specific, just a neighborhood perspective. As much as there are times when we would want to keep green space or something, I guess I'm just more in favor of progress and trying to do something for the community. But I do understand, and I'm hearing all the concerns, and I'm trying to determine that. But this is coming from somebody who lives less than a block away from the Village Green and experiences this on a weekly basis. You know, and I do not have any concerns about my kids being around, or I've never seen anybody urinating on the street or in front of my house or anything like that. So, I mean, that's not to say that this may or may not happen, but I mean, that's just my 2 cents on the subject.
Okay. One question I did forget was, what is your intention for alcohol use on the property?
Oh, well, we're not gonna have a liquor license.
Okay.
Wouldn't even attempt to get that. But the caterers, we would bring in caterers that would have a license. And I presume that the wedding would contract with, we don't contract with the caterer or the liquor supplier. So it would be up to the wedding people to determine whether they're gonna have it or not.
And are you aware that the state is soon going to be changing their event-based liquor policy?
Yes, I'm aware. There's been a law passed, there's litigation going on, and it may not be available. And if it's not available, we wouldn't even, we wouldn't attempt to operate that business.
Or it would cap it at 6 events per year with alcohol?
Well, that probably that wouldn't work, and we wouldn't do the project if it stays there.
Okay.
I have a question just about the existing house. What are your plans for the existing house in this proposal?
I don't have a plan, other than to renovate it and make it really look good at this point. I've never mentioned the word that you had suggested, that it was Airbnb. I never used that term, and not even once.
Right, and so our police chief sent a message to us today regarding our current ordinances about noise. And basically to summarize, it says that any amplified noise after 10:30 p.m. is prohibited unless you have a special permit.
Yes.
So you are aware of that?
I understand there's a noise ordinance, and we have the same thing in Green Lake. I've had that, a wedding venue there at the bed and breakfast, and we've had weddings there for a 10-year period, and even with our rather strict ordinance there, we've never had a complaint.
But this would essentially...
And we would abide by whatever the ordinance says.
Yeah, this would essentially limit the dance part of a wedding to ending at 10:30 p.m.
If the wedding, that would probably eliminate all the weddings and we just wouldn't have any. People wouldn't want it, generally. So I think what we're saying is this probably isn't going to work. It's not a good idea, that we just won't go ahead with it. It'd make my life a lot easier, and I can put a lot more money back in the bank, probably.
Well, it might be difficult for a wedding portion, but your other events, certainly, the daytime events.
That's not enough to generate enough income to make the thing make sense.
So I think if we're inclined to approve anything tonight, it would have the stipulations of limits to alcohol and limits to hours of operation.
Yes, I understand that. And if they're too strict, I just would not use it, that we would just not use whatever's given to us, if it's not appropriate. If it doesn't work, we wouldn't go ahead.
Okay. A question for legal. If this gets granted and the zoning overlay and the conditional use happens, and he decides not to use it, what happens with the conditional use for next owner? Does it go away, or?
If you were to grant a conditional use and a zoning overlay with conditions, which is kind of what you're saying, and some of them are dictated by the ordinances associated with amplified music, then those conditions would carry on with the property, but you could limit it to this owner.
Okay. And a future owner would have to
reapply. There would be a sunset is what you would do, essentially. Especially if what he's saying is what he's saying, which is he wouldn't do it if you put that limitation on it. He could withdraw before you vote his application this evening. That's what he kind of said. So we wouldn't get caught up in that hurdle of saying when it's going to sunset.
Good. And the owner of the property is yourself, or Ripon-Plan LLC?
I'm the owner of the LLC that owns it.
But the LLC?
100%.
But the LLC owns the property?
The LLC owns the property and I own the LLC 100%.
Very good. Just so we're clear on ownership. Any further questions or discussion?
Well, with what was discussed tonight, if this didn't get approved, what would your plans be with the property?
I'm just going to sit on the barns until something better comes along. Just put new windows in and doors, that's about it. Wouldn't paint it or anything.
Just kind of seal it up from the weather.
What's that?
Just seal it up from the weather?
Yeah. It has two metal roofs which have protected the property for 50 years and make the interior roofs look very good. And we'll probably put a roof on the third building because it needs it. But they would just sit and wait until something better comes along, then the city would approve it, whatever it is.
So I suppose I'll just ask you directly, if we are going to approve anything tonight, it will have the conditions, the restrictions on the hours.
And what is the restriction?
We'll certainly have the hours restriction to match the sound ordinance.
Yeah. And did you say that there's a method of getting an extension beyond that at all, or is there none?
There is a permitting process.
Which would and the permit would permit you to go for another half hour or hour or something like that?
Whatever you apply for would be considered.
then that would be okay.
But not if you put the condition on the conditional use. That would not allow the permit to be granted. Just clarifying. Just so it's clear to everybody, if you put the condition on that music ends at 10 or 10:30, there's no way to permit over that. That's a condition of the conditional use operation or use of the property.
It probably would not work, and that would kill the project.
The ordinance is already there, so that's pre-existing.
Right, but I'm clarifying.
Right, if we limit.
If you
for the-
limit it,
yeah,
it's limited.
For the conditional use, there's.
The idea that you're gonna say, well, you can do it till 10:30, but then maybe you can get a permit. If that's what you want to do in your conditional use grant, so be it, but I just want to clarify, if you make a motion to limit it to 10 or 10:30, that's the limit. He doesn't have a way around that.
And it doesn't make a ton of sense to make a motion to say follow the ordinance because it already
Correct.
exists.
Correct.
as
It
the
would not be
ordinance.
the appropriate motion. The motion is a condition on use of this property. Alcohol was another issue, which I think was clarified by the mayor that starting in 26, the current law of the state, unless it's repealed or otherwise vacated, is that only 6 events without liquor license to the premises could be held at that site. So that would be another condition that one would think that this body would want to include at that site. And he's indicated that that may not be enough.
So I shared other information, and Wayne has been provided this information about the no sale event. So Wisconsin Act 73 was recently passed in effect January 1st, 2026. These types of public place and event venues have one of 2 options. It's to be issued a liquor license by the municipality or to apply for a no sale event venue, which allows limits the events where wine and beer are consumed to no more than 6 per calendar year and 1 per month. So that is not something we can get around. This is state law. It's going into effect in January 2026, so there is a year here. But the options are either obtain a liquor license, have 6 events, or nothing at all. The idea that a caterer brings in something is not an allowable option under the liquor licensing laws.
But it would count as one of the 6 events.
It could theoretically count as one of the 6 events, as a BYOB. But that is a limit not being imposed by the city. This is a state law, and yes, it may be changed, but this is what has been published by the state of Wisconsin. So this is the framework for alcohol within the property.
So you're saying that you would have to get a liquor license for the place if one is available?
If you wanted more than 6 events with alcohol.
Yeah, the economics wouldn't work for the business if you don't have the option for more.
There is an exception in this law as well, that if in the event that there is no liquor license available for the city, that one could be applied for and provided for this type of event center. So that is allowed in the state law as well.
So you'd have to go through the state for that license?
No, it would go through the city, but it would be through this process.
Even with the liquor license, they fall under all the regulations of licensed bartenders, licensed suppliers, regulated by the state.
It would be, yes.
Enforced by the city.
Yep.
But then the converse would open up the property for more events than 6. And again, this body has the ability to limit it, just so it's clear.
And you're anticipating no more than 24 events per year?
No, I'm not anticipating, I'm saying our research shows that that's the probability, somewhere between 12 and 24. And that would be a combination of weddings and community events of various kinds. Business gatherings of different kinds. That's what happens at other places that are similar, within cities.
I'm not sure what the applicant wants to do. I know that he is represented, but his attorney could not be here this evening.
Right.
And I think that this issue that we're discussing is a critical one. If this body is listening to the neighbors' concerns, may want to limit the number of event activity at the site, and in recognition of the state law that's coming in 2026. Do you want to withdraw your application this evening and
No, I would say, why don't we adjourn it to another meeting, and I'll have Attorney Blazin here. That'll give you guys a chance to think about it a little bit more.
It certainly is something that the board could entertain.
So our next regular meeting would be the 3rd Wednesday of July.
Yes.
I think I would make that motion to adjourn the discussion and of.
In light of the concerns.
In light of the concerns.
Related to
the next
hours
meeting.
of operation and alcohol use at that site.
What he said.
I just think those are two critical ones that I think the applicant has been honest and has indicated that those raise concerns for him.
I think I would make that motion to adjourn a vote until the next meeting.
I would second that, and with the note of, as the body here, we have to follow the state law as it comes through. So in respect to all of the neighbors, we hear your concerns, we want to address that, but there's also, I think, there's some technical things that need to be answered, and as far as representing this gentleman under the law as it is, I think it's fair that we would need to look at it and get some feedback and have him with his representation.
And then, just to be clear, that the public hearing was completed tonight. There would not be another public hearing.
Just adjourning.
Anyone who's here tonight is welcome to attend that meeting.
Absolutely.
Or they are also televised, should be live on our YouTube channel if you're unable to attend.
Yes, they are encouraged and welcome.
I would like to make a comment about the trees that were taken down. We had a contract with an arborist that took down only trees that were dead. There's a borer disease, and that's all that came down, other than some small trees up near the house. And those there was an effort not to touch the stream in any way when they did that. That was a part of the contract that they had. So I hope they did a good job. I was there and saw what they did, and I thought they did a good job of protecting the stream.
All right, so the motion is to postpone discussion. Adjourn discussion.
Adjourn the meeting. Adjourn the meeting. We've had the public hearing.
We're not adjourning the meeting.
What's that?
We still have stuff on the agenda.
No, adjourn. Right, you're right. This discussion. You're right, this item.
So we're postponing the discussion to the next meeting, when your legal counsel can hopefully join you. Topics of discussion are alcohol use, hours of operation,
location, and fencing, all those things that have been addressed, and will give this body some sense of, if it were to move it forward, the conditions. And perhaps you would have more sense of what conditions you would agree to. You've heard the comments of the citizen.
Well, I'd like to know acceptable and what's not acceptable, and we try to live within what's acceptable. And if it isn't, then we would withdraw.
Okay. So all those in favor of postponing discussion on this to the next meeting, say aye.
Adjourning discussion.
Adjourning discussion on this topic till the next meeting.
To a date certain. What is the date? Whatever it is.
July 17th.
At 7 o'clock.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
We'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for coming. It is a public meeting. There's no more public hearing, but you're welcome to attend.
Sit here and listen to garbage, so.
You get to come and say nothing.
All right. Moving on to our next topic is to discuss and review the public art ordinance. Adam.
Just give a minute here for.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
So in your package, there was a draft ordinance regarding creating section 15.34, public art permits and regulations. Kind of the purpose of this is encouraging the installation of public art throughout the community. This is not something that is delegated to a specific area within the community or zoning district or commercial corridor or anything. It's just public art in general. Talks about specific goals and then provides definitions and then a process for review and approval of public art. So the general flow would be application comes in from, it could be an individual, could be a business, could be a nonprofit, could be a group, it could be the city to install a piece of public art. And it would come to the Plan Commission and then be determined if there's a recommendation to forward to the Common Council. So obviously there are then some kind of factors when considering when to approve public art, including general goals and appropriateness, aesthetics, where the theme is, the size, so on and so forth. And then there's some criteria regarding where it can be located and general just guidelines so it looks or appears to look appropriate in the setting that it's placed. And then ultimately talking about sort of some restrictions in it regarding attachment to facade, covering windows, location on facades, not covering or not changing images, lights, things of that nature. It can't be compensating people, or the artist. Can't be an actual brand, so you can't put a giant Coca-Cola sign mural on some building or anything like that. And then apply any other municipal codes, and then there's maintenance requirements. So if that piece of art is deteriorating or destroyed, there's a plan in place to have it either removed or taken care of. There's a process for application and then revocation and penalty. So the general, I think everybody's mind goes to murals. Murals are only a part of this kind of ordinance. You'd be also looking at statues and other sculptures that could go in parks, could go in right-of-ways, downtown corridors, so on and so forth. So the whole concept is to set a framework for people to apply and generally get it permitted and have a plan for it moving forward in the event that it does not sustain itself. I think another thing, Attorney Wirtz and I talked a little bit about it. You know, everybody goes to like, oh, painting a mural on a side of a building or a brick, right? That is not strictly prohibited in this, but through the process of permitting it, certainly could be a condition upon it and not be approved. Generally speaking, you know, someone would apply, is an application, gets submitted, what they want to do, and then basically comes to the Plan Commission. But there has to be agreements with liability coverage, so on and so forth. So a little bit more robust. I think we've had past efforts that have been done, and we've run them through a process. This process would replace that process. So, and formalize it a little bit more to encourage, but also try to regulate it in a wise fashion so we don't end up with less than appealing public art, because that can become, art is, you know,
The eye of the beholder.
But I just wanted to create a framework for it because there has been discussion about public art, there has been past incidents with public art. This is an ordinance that's been essentially drafted based on other ordinances that are of similar communities, and ultimately the Common Council would have the authority, but it would come through Plan Commission first.
What was the insurance requirements?
$1 million. So, liability is carried in the minimum amount of $1 million, and name the city as additionally insured. So on some level too, you are putting in restrictions to ensure that the individual or the organization doing this has a certain backing or a certain, so it's not, you know, it's not, say, no offense to, you know, kindergartners, but you know, you have the backing of a larger group or individuals that you know can execute this more professionally.
And support it and maintain it.
And the $1 million of insurance is for the entire duration that is on the public property? Or just the installation?
I think it's the installation. So obviously some of these things, you know, how we work it out as well is the Common Council ultimately has the say, but we have to sort of accept some of these things as ours as well. So, you know, that kind of goes in tandem with it. If somebody wanted to, say, for example, in Rotary Square, place a statue next to one of the pergolas or a piece of artwork, we would have that arrangement spelled out through this process of who owns it, you know, so on and so forth. So, because a lot of times things get installed and it becomes who is responsible for that. And this would generally hold that person accountable or the property owner accountable to ensure that it gets maintained and does not become a nuisance one way or the other, or a problem.
So either the artist still owns the piece and they maintain it, or they donate it to the city and it's our prerogative to take it down when it.
Correct. Or if somebody paints a mural on a building, the property owner who owns the property assumes the responsibility of that, has a plan in place when they apply to maintain it, make sure that if graffiti gets placed on it, that it gets washed, you know, off, so on and so forth. So.
How does it work on on private property?
To be considered public art, the art must be located either upon public property or upon private property for which an agreement to which the city as a party has secured and authorized the public art, subject to the conditions included in the agreement, whether it is on public or private property. Public art must be freely accessed by the general public during the normal hours of operation of the premises upon which the art is located. So it does anticipate that there may be an interplay between the city and the private owner, but is suggestive of the fact that there needs to be an agreement.
Yep, which
So
there
the
would be.
most likely scenario for that would be a mural on the side of a building.
Yeah, and I can think of somebody, Lester Schwartz had a Cadillac, an old Cadillac as a piece of art.
Yeah.
And I can imagine somebody wanting that on their property.
Yeah.
Is that,
I think.
but again, it
yeah.
goes to plan commission, we could
Right,
vote it down.
exactly.
And
And I
so
call it
there are,
public art. That would be a good example.
Yes.
yeah, there are,
Yeah, an old, beautiful, yeah.
Well,
Or
yeah.
however you look at it, yeah.
right.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a very good example.
But we do have the right to vote it down.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's
then,
a junk
is it an
vehicle.
appeal? Is it an appeal? So we vote it down, does it automatically go to council?
No, I do not believe so. I think it would, I don't think it's written that way, that
Okay.
it goes.
This one's
here.
This body
negative, it's
stops
gotta
here.
go, it stops here.
Okay,
Yeah.
It's gotta go with a positive recommendation.
okay.
Where there isn't the immediate appeal to the, there's no appeal, I don't think, in this ordinance.
No.
So it's more about, we're participating,
Mhm.
because it's public art. And you're the body that is going to be the public reviewer. And it doesn't pass muster here, it doesn't go there.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, the idea that there's an agreement in place, that everybody's on the same page. It's not just somebody putting a mural on the side of a building. A mural would be considered public art on private property because it's viewable, accessible to the public. There'd be a few maybe other circumstances where things get put on private property, maybe say in an alleyway, if something's affixed to a side of a building that is on private property. We would be a party to that because it's kind of access to the public way. Then there are the more, if the library wanted to, in the boulevard here, put an entire sculpture of a whatever, right? We would work through that process with them, with this.
Yeah, your car on somebody's lawn is a good example.
So devil's advocate here, Ripon College, Ripon School District, they want to put a statue right on their front entrance, where it is right off the city sidewalk, accessible to the public. Would that be considered public art, or it's on fully private property? They don't need to come to us.
We would argue that that's public art if it's not designating the building that they're going to or whatever. I think that would be classified public art, yeah.
It would be no
That's the
different
goal
than the
here.
car.
Right, it'd be
in
no
my
different
state
than
of my front yard.
It'd be the goal of this. Now, they can make the argument, it's our mascot, a tiger, okay? That, you could get into that argument.
And I
Say they
think
put a-
the intention too is just a statue on Ripon College property away from the public right away, not viewable from the public, but you have to enter their
It's theirs.
property
Is there.
is theirs. That's different.
Like where Abraham Lincoln used
Yes.
to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, be a good example.
Like some of the sculptures that are around.
Right, around
Those
the
are not
campus are not
publicly
intended, right.
viewable. That is not how this is intended.
But
if-
right at the entrance would be.
If, if right at the entrance they wanted to put a giant Red Hawk, a giant rally, go rally, right?
And I know the school would be different because technically it's a public school, but it's kind of private property too because it's school board property.
Yep.
You can be trespassed from the school
Yep.
and their property.
Right.
They don't have to allow.
Yeah, so there are gonna be some
access.
gray lines here.
Yeah.
There are gonna be some gray lines. But we certainly have the right, if the ordinance is in place, say we call that public art. And so now we're into it.
So like the car, or
Yep.
I want to put a statue in my front lawn.
Right, exactly.
That's obviously art.
Yep. Yep.
On private property. If
Right.
it's viewable from the street, it's public or public art.
Again, you're gonna have some fine lines here, clearly. And First Amendment rights will come into play. So the idea that I get to use my property if it's not offensive, that's.
The public property part
inherent
is
in here.
straightforward in my head. It's the
Yeah,
private
yeah, we're
property.
in the- Private is.
There's a lot of gray area there.
Yeah, there is. There clearly is. and we won't solve that.
Because I'm like, I just got two little like kissing Dutch people statues.
Exactly.
My faucet, I'm gonna have to take my
Technically,
faucet
like,
down.
Is that art?
Is that art?
Right.
Could
It's not-
you just view it from?
not public.
There's some things we're not going to.
You mean I have to take down my house is protected by a Tyrannosaurus Rex sign on it?
I think there's
Flower
obviously a push in communities for public art, more in public spaces, right? And private art on private property that, we're not getting into people's
We're not chasing,
gardens
yeah, exactly.
and things of
Good
that
point.
nature.
Good
That is
point.
not where this is intended to. This is meant for professionals who want to use buildings and public ways and publicly accessible properties to install art, and giving us a framework to approve or deny that, and make sure that it's maintained moving forward. Ultimately, this is not we're not trying to infringe on free speech, anything like that. It's not a sign ordinance. It's not, it is, I think in this case, if it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck.
Yeah, there's
it's
gonna
public
be,
art.
there's gonna be lines. I think
No.
John's example is a good one.
Yeah.
So a junk car that otherwise we'd have the right to remove, but they say, no, it's a piece of sculpture. Here's where they could go.
One question I actually do have, that we bring that up, when we talked, the whole country is surrounded by politics and this side or that side. So would that be like covered under like the not contain any brand names or anything? Is that, or is that something that we would decide as a body, or,
Again, that's the line, I think we're running around it.
Yeah.
I thought about it too. There's nothing in here about political
I think
art.
there's already an ordinance
On
about
political signs.
signage,
Yes,
right?
signage.
already-
Political
it's
just-
So we could,
So many days.
if they try and
So we would
pass something as
suggest
art, we would say, well, no,
political
that's signage,
That's
that's clearly
That's-
intended.
Yeah, that would be a good.
okay,
No, that's a good point.
it came up in discussion and I was
No,
like.
I thought about it when I read it too.
So I think I just wrapped my head around this example. If he's got the car that looks like a junk car to me on his front lawn, he says, no, it's art, I want to keep it.
Yep.
He could apply to, say it is public art and run it through.
Yeah.
But if I want to have a garden gnome village, that's just private art.
That's just private.
And there's no regulations against garden gnome
Right, you could
villages.
have it, or no.
But there is a regulation
Maybe
against
Joe-
a junk
Well,
car.
a junk car in the backyard, though.
It's not, it's a junk car,
Unless you want to.
Start it up.
Yeah, well, no,
But, I mean, I have an old car that I can start right now.
I think a
Then
backyard,
If
you
it's
start to
licensed
say,
and you can start it,
then you're good.
well, then you're good, yeah.
you're good.
But you could, I think what your point is, the argument is could be made, the backyard is not necessarily
public
public.
view. Even if you can see it, it's not placed
Exactly.
Like my backyard is very
Walking down
open
your
in public
sidewalk, I
view,
can
but.
peek around the fence.
But we do have, there is an ordinance against unlicensed and
Yeah,
unstarted.
junk vehicles.
And we do have the
cars.
ordinance that says you can't have the junk car, but
Yeah.
he's claiming the junk car is
Is
art, and if
classic,
we
yes.
deem it as art, he can keep his car.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the point of the proposal here is also that if you're going to claim that it's art, you need to show that you're going to maintain it
Right.
and keep it up
Keep
to a
it
certain
up.
standard.
So it doesn't rust away.
So, if you have something, then
Unless that's the point of the art is to rust
That
away.
sculptor that lives on the court, on the top of the hill at A&K.
Yeah, Schwartz.
Yeah,
And all
exactly.
all the
Yeah.
sculptures and the
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah.
So that would have to be permitted then, if they had it.
Not necessarily.
If they had
How
it in the
visible
front
is
yard.
it? How
Visible, and
visible
if
is
it's
it?
open to the public and
Yeah,
what's
there's
the
trees
intention
that
of
are
it,
buffering it.
I think
You put it behind a
ultimately,
tree, I don't think it's public.
But if it was out by the road,
Yep,
it's by the
exactly,
sidewalk.
exactly, where everybody walks by it.
Yes.
I think the only note that I would actually like to see changed, that I caught, is in the last section, B, where it says, a public art permit may be revoked for such a violation by a majority vote. I personally would like to see a 3/4 vote of the public, or common council to revoke an already issued permit. Because if it's already come through plan and gone to council, then it's already met a
What
high
section are you
bar.
looking at?
133480B.
Although that is in reference to something that's found to not be in compliance with the original terms.
So they violate the terms, then you're gonna want, in other words, that's how you get there. Like art project found not in compliance.
Not in compliance.
go to letter C, and it says, the city shall have the right, but not the obligation to either remove or contract for removal of the non-permitted public art. If we have the right, why wouldn't we have the obligation, but not the obligation?
That's because we can choose to do it or we can choose not to do it.
Right,
So
it
if
may not
someone-
be as important as we want.
So if someone puts up
Spend the money.
a sculpture that is obscene or
Yeah.
something objectionable, the city may want to remove that, but we don't want to pay to remove that. We can then say, well, we are claiming our right to remove it, but we're going to put the onus on the owner of the property to remove it and have the pay up to take it down.
As long as
charge them.
Yeah.
So it's
Charge them
written, it's
to-
written fine?
Yeah, shall bill the property owner.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So are we looking for a motion to pass this through to the council for approval tonight?
If you are okay, it's a discussion and review. If you so choose to want to move it to the common council for consideration, we can do so. It is up to you all.
I'll make a motion to approve and send to council for their approval.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the public arts permits and regulation ordinance to send to council for approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
Thank you.
All right, project updates and staff reports. Sue, you have anything for us?
Not updates, but maybe a future agenda item for signature, for the wafer factory again. They got one more addition coming.
That's good.
And that one might need a conditional use. They haven't decided if it's gonna be taller than the 60 feet, so.
They already blocked, they already blocked my point-to-point link for our buildings. They want to make bigger things, gosh. Can't do anything about it, it's airspace.
All right, Adam?
I don't have anything. We will obviously meet in July, so just.
All right. Lud, you have anything?
Nothing.
All right, very good. If there's nothing else for future agenda items?
I just had a question on this tonight. Could that man have asked for a special meeting, a quicker meeting? We do that at historic preservation.
He could.
Okay, I was just
Yeah,
curious.
He could.
That's all.
Yep, he absolutely could have.
Yeah, I suggested the regular July meeting just so we have time to get our head around it because there's a lot to consider for all of us, including him.
That was my thinking, and I think he was thinking, and so was the board, and so I think it's gonna work.
Sometimes we get into those discussions and I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know what the right question of action is. Like, it's kind of nice to be able to just take a little.
You don't know the answer if you don't even know the question. sometimes.
All right, if there's no more discussions, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 8:28. Thank you very much.